Have you ever pondered upon the chilling realities of the Gulag prison system? Today, we're peeling back the layers of history to explore the enigma of this infamous incarceration system. The Gulag prison system, a haunting relic from the Soviet era, holds an indelible mark in the annals of human rights atrocities. Our purpose? To delve deep into the history of these prisons, shedding light on their formation, operation, and ultimate dissolution. Prepare yourself to embark on a journey through time, unraveling the grim chronicles of the Gulag prisons. The inception of these prisons takes us back to the early 1930s. In the heart of the Soviet Union, under the ironclad rule of Joseph Stalin, a system of forced labor camps known as gulags was born. The political landscape was a veritable powder keg. Stalin's regime was marked by a climate of fear and paranoia, with widespread purges, show trials, and executions. In this atmosphere of dread, the Gulag system found its footing. It was a tool designed for political repression, a mechanism to silence dissent and control the population. Anyone deemed a threat to the regime, real or imagined, could be sent to these camps, from petty criminals to political prisoners, intellectuals, and even war heroes. These camps were scattered across the vast expanse of the Soviet Union, from the frigid wastes of Siberia to the remote corners of Central Asia. Thus began a reign of terror that would last for decades. Gulag prisons were not mere detention centers, they were a system of forced labor. In the heart of the Soviet Union, these prisons were designed to break the human spirit as much as they were to punish perceived enemies of the state. Life in the Gulag prisons was a grim reality where the pursuit of survival was a daily ordeal. The living conditions were harsh, to say the least. Prisoners were packed into overcrowded barracks with inadequate heating, often in the harshest climates of Siberia. The biting cold was a constant companion, and diseases ran rampant. Food was scarce, and the meager rations provided were barely enough to sustain the exhausting labor that each day demanded. And that brings us to the essence of the Gulag system: forced labor. Prisoners were utilized as a source of free labor, contributing to various state projects. From mining to construction, logging to farming, the work was grueling and dangerous. The prisoner's value was measured purely in terms of their productivity. The less you produced, the less you ate. The punishment methods in these prisons were brutal and designed to instill fear. Solitary confinement, physical abuse, and even execution were not uncommon. The guards wielded absolute power, and their reign was often marked by unmitigated cruelty. Yet in the midst of such bleakness, the human spirit found ways to endure. Prisoners formed communities, shared stories, and even found ways to express themselves through art and literature. They clung to the hope that they would survive, that they would one day walk free. The Gulag prisons were more than a system of incarceration. They were a mechanism of control and oppression, a stark reminder of the lengths to which a regime could go to maintain its grip on power. But they were also a testament to human resilience, a grim testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of extreme adversity. The Gulag prisons were a testament to human resilience in the face of extreme adversity. The scale of the Gulag system was staggering, spanning across the Soviet Union. From the frosty realms of Siberia to the urban heartlands of Moscow, the Gulag network was a grim testament to the Soviet Union's expansive geography. This system, while notorious for its severe conditions, was more than just a series of prison camps. It was a vast, intricate web that was deeply woven into the fabric of the Soviet society. The number of inmates who passed through the Gulag system is difficult to determine with certainty. However, estimates suggest that millions of souls were ensnared by this system. These individuals hailed from all walks of life, from political dissidents and common criminals to prisoners of war. Their stories are a chilling reminder of the human cost of the Gulag system, a cost that remains a part of Russia's collective memory. The inmates' forced labor was central to the Soviet economy. They toiled in mines, built roads, and constructed railways, often in inhospitable environments. Many of the Soviet Union's major infrastructure projects, from the White Sea-Baltic Canal to the Trans-Siberian Railway, were built on the backs of Gulag prisoners. This labor not only fueled the Soviet economy, but also shaped the physical landscape of the nation, leaving a lasting imprint on its geography. The impact of the Gulag system rippled through Soviet society and economy. It served as a tool of repression, fostering a climate of fear that stifled dissent and maintained control. Economically, the system was a double-edged sword. While the forced labor contributed to economic growth, the cost of maintaining the Gulag system was enormous, straining the Soviet economy. In many ways, the Gulag system was a microcosm of Soviet society. It reflected the harsh realities of life under a totalitarian regime and the immense human cost of its economic ambitions. The Gulag system was not just a prison system, it was a cog in the wheel of the Soviet economy. The demise of the Gulag system was as dramatic as its rise. After the death of Stalin in 1953, the Soviet Union underwent a period of de-Stalinization under the new leadership of Nikita Khrushchev. This was a process of political reform that led to some significant changes in the Soviet Union, including the dismantling of the Gulag system. The closure of the Gulags was not an overnight process. It was a gradual dismantling that began in the mid-50s and continued into the early 60s. The shift in political ideology played a significant role in this. Khrushchev believed in the potential for rehabilitation over punishment, a stark contrast to Stalin's regime that thrived on fear and repression. This shift in perspective led to a change in policy and ultimately the closure of the Gulags. International pressure also played a part in the dissolution of the Gulags. As the horrors of the Gulag system became more widely known internationally, the Soviet Union faced increasing criticism. This external pressure, coupled with the internal political shift, led to the eventual end of the Gulag system. However, the closure of the Gulags was not without its challenges. The Gulag system had become an integral part of the Soviet economy, providing a cheap source of labor. The sudden loss of this labor force had a significant impact on the Soviet economy, leading to a period of economic instability. Furthermore, the process of reintegrating the Gulag prisoners back into society was fraught with difficulties. Many prisoners faced discrimination and struggled to find employment. The stigma of being a former Gulag prisoner was a heavy burden to bear. Despite these challenges, the closure of the Gulags marked a significant turning point in Soviet history. It signaled the end of a brutal era of repression and the beginning of a period of political reform. The Gulag system, once a symbol of Stalin's rule, became a ghost of the past. The legacy of the Gulag prisons is a stark reminder of a dark chapter in human history. Marking an era of extreme political repression, the Gulag system has left deep imprints on the lives of the survivors, their families, and the world's perception of the Soviet regime. The lasting impacts are manifold. The former inmates of these forced labor camps carried the physical and psychological scars of their ordeal long after their release. For many, the trauma persisted, manifesting in nightmares and emotional distress. They were forever marked by the harsh conditions, the brutal labor, and the constant fear that had once been their daily reality. The families of these survivors were not spared either. The children of Gulag inmates, often stigmatized and ostracized, carried the burden of their parents' past. They grew up in the shadow of a history they were too young to understand, yet too closely associated with to ignore. Beyond the personal, the legacy of the Gulags also shaped the world's perception of the Soviet regime. The revelations about the Gulags became symbolic of the brutalities and excesses of the regime, tarnishing its image on the global stage. Even today, the memory of the Gulag system serves as a stark reminder of the repressive nature of the Soviet state. This grim chapter of history also plays a significant role in contemporary discussions about human rights and political repression. It underscores the urgency of safeguarding individual freedoms and the rule of law. The story of the Gulags warns us of the devastating consequences when political power goes unchecked and human rights are blatantly disregarded. The history of the Gulag system has been recorded in countless memoirs, films, and academic studies. These narratives continue to shed light on the harsh realities of the Gulags, ensuring that this chapter of history is not forgotten. They serve as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. As we reflect on the legacy of the Gulags, we are reminded of our collective responsibility to uphold human dignity and freedom. We must strive to prevent such atrocities from recurring and ensure that the lessons from this dark chapter in human history are not lost. The history of the Gulag prisons continues to resonate, serving as a grave reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked political power. The journey through the history of the Gulag prisons has been a chilling one. We've traversed the enigma of the Gulag system, its genesis, the harsh reality of the prisons, their scale and impact, their end, and the enduring legacy they've left behind. It's a narrative that's as harrowing as it is significant, a stark reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when power is unchecked. Yet, it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the countless souls who endured, resisted, and survived. We must remember this history, not as a relic of a bygone era, but as a cautionary tale. We must learn from the past to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. As we remember the Gulag prisons, we are reminded of the indomitable spirit of humanity and the relentless pursuit of freedom, even in the face of the most dire circumstances.